Welcome to my 5-minute tutorials. Today we're going to be looking at the training secrets in Taekwondo. So in Taekwondo we have 9 training secrets that will help us to do the techniques properly and to really help us to understand how to implement those within our fundamental movements and our patterns. So in the ITF Encyclopedia written by General Che, he wrote this as a paragraph before the training secrets. So he said, an old proverb says, even heaven cannot make a diligent worker poor. However, in Taekwondo, diligence or intensive training alone does not produce quality techniques. On the contrary, he said, instructions from a false or unqualified instructor would be worse than not being taught at all, because unscientific movements not only reduce power, but require a tremendous amount of time to correct. He also went on to say, on the other hand, under the proper guidance of a competent instructor, a student who trains earnestly with dedication will learn the true techniques of Taekwondo in a comparatively short period of time with less effort. So we then need to look at these 9 training secrets. So the first one is to study the theory of power thoroughly. Now that could be a lifelong journey in itself, to really get to grips with those 6 elements and to implement those into our training. Then we have to understand the purpose and method of each movement clearly. So we have to understand how it's done and what it is for. We must never do a technique without knowing what it's for. And if we know what the technique is for, it actually can help us to do it properly. For instance, if a punch is coming to the center of the body, there'd be no point me crossing the arms in front of my body here and finishing the block level with my shoulder, because as I'm crossing my arms, the punch will then attack my arms. We have to understand when we're stepping, we must be half facing, so then I'm going to deflect that punch across. So you see, understanding the method or the purpose can help you to produce the method and to do the technique correctly. Okay? To bring the movement of the eyes, hands and feet and breath into one single coordinated action. That enables us to finish the technique all together with a nice, strong, solid foundation to enable us to produce maximum power in that technique. We must choose the appropriate attacking tool for each vital spot. Yes, a punch to the neck would hurt, but a knife hand strike would be much more effective. We must then become familiar with the correct angle and distance for attack and defense. You could have the most beautiful pattern in the world. You could have the best technique in the world, but if you don't understand the distance of what that should be and the correct angle of those techniques, then in actual combat, it's going to be absolutely useless. You must keep both arms and legs bent slightly whilst the movement is in motion, and that creates us to be more relaxed and therefore produce more speed and hopefully more power. All movements must begin with a backward motion with very few exceptions. However, once that movement is in motion, it must not stop before reaching the target. It would be like getting a ball and throwing it like that, or throwing it like that. We instinctively know right from a small age that this will throw that ball a lot further, and this is our backward motion. So as we do the punch, when we first learn it, there's no backward motion. We just punch because we're just learning the coordination. And then as time goes on, we start to understand we have to come off, come back and forward. We come back, round and strike. So there's that backward motion, yet it must be continuous before we actually execute the technique. We must create a sine wave by utilizing the knee spring properly to create this nice fluid sine wave motion, which enables us to produce more power by utilizing the body mass. And the last one is to exhale briefly at the moment of each blow, except a connecting motion. So we have a normal technique or a single technique, we have a continuous motion, we have a fast motion, we have a connecting motion. So the only one that doesn't have its own breath on the 2 techniques would be a connecting motion. Every other movement has its own exhalation of air at the moment of impact. And that's not to make loads of noise, that's just to expel the air out of our lungs, to enable us to tense the abdominal muscles, to tense all the chest, and to enable us to produce more power. So let's just have a recap. So, to study the theory of power thoroughly, to understand the purpose and method of each movement clearly, to bring the movement of the eyes, hands and feet into one single coordinated action, to choose the appropriate attacking tool for each vital spot, to become familiar with the correct angle and distance for each technique, for attack and defense, to keep both arms and legs bent properly or slightly whilst the movement is in motion. All movements must begin with a backward motion, with very few exceptions. However, once that movement is in motion, it must not stop before reaching the target. To create a sine wave by utilising the knee spring properly, and to exhale briefly on each blow except a connecting motion. Thank you for joining me. I hope that's helped, and see you at the next one. Thank you.